Hey there guys, we're taking a look at Need for Speed running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. Now this is the 2016 version of the game, and here you can see it really struggling to run at 1080p at the lowest possible settings with the 15 watt TDP. We're pretty much getting a below 30 FPS average with 1% lows that are really struggling to even make it to 25. So overall the experience here is just really rough, and I really would not recommend trying to play the game like this. I would just drop the resolution down, and we'll look at what happens when we drop the resolution down to 720p. Now at 720p, we are looking at much better performance here with 1% lows that are going to be significantly better and averages that are now at pretty much a 60 FPS average. All of this while staying at the stock TDP and just dropping the resolution down to 720p. And again, this is with all the lowest graphics settings except for the textures, which are just left on high. Overall though, the 1% lows aren't amazing here. So really what we're seeing here is some pretty fantastic averages with some pretty rough 1% lows. Increasing the TDP might be enough to make this experience overall better, but at the stock TDP, it is going to be a bit rough, but you can get used to it if this is the only way that you can play the game. By using the AMD APU tuning utility to set the TDP to 25 watts, we can see here that the performance that we get at 1080p is still just not doable. The 1% lows are still brutal, and the averages that we're getting are just slightly above 30. So overall, the experience of actually playing is just going to be too rough that I really don't see a reason to stick to 1080p. Even with this higher TDP, it's still just not enough to justify this resolution. It's certainly not completely awful, but for the most part, I just don't see a reason to play like this really. Especially when at 720p, you do just get a overall much better experience. Now the 1% lows still aren't amazing, but the overall experience is significantly smoother here, and really the extra wattage is welcome here because it does level out a bit of the performance, and overall you do get a much smoother experience. Really, this game seems to just benefit from 720p more than anything else, so even if you're going to be playing at stock, go for 720p. If you're raising the TDP, go for 720p. 1080p just seems completely out of the question, and if you're willing to take a hit on the 1% lows, then you can go to 900p, but just looking at how the 1% lows are right now with the 25 watt TDP at 720p, I really don't see a reason why you should take any more of a hit to performance than you already are. It's down to personal preference, but I just don't really see a reason to try to tough this out at anything higher than 720p. Now we can raise the performance a bit more with the performance preset on the AMD APU tuning utility, and with the performance preset, pretty much 1080p still does not change at all. The 1% lows are still really rough. The averages that we're getting are just not going to justify the amount of heat that we're going to be generating here and the amount of noise that the system itself is going to be making. I will say that the 1% lows are keeping pretty tight to where the average is, but it's really just still too low to really make this worthwhile when you can just drop down to 720p and have a significantly more enjoyable experience. You're really just pushing it here, and you're just kind of going for 1080p just because you really want that native resolution. I don't think that this is worthwhile at all. And at 720p, the performance preset really does not see that big of an uplift in terms of our 1% lows to really justify the amount of heat that we're generating at this point as well. So really, I think that the performance preset in general is just not worth it on this system, and in general on this chip, it's just not going to net you that much of a gain. But if you do have a system that allows you to run at that TDP without really causing any damage to the hardware, then you are going to see a small improvement, especially in the 1% lows, where that's really where you want to get the most gains. Though it's nothing remarkable, it is at least an improvement, and when we're talking about low enough frame rates where 1 or 2 FPS can be a significant difference, it is at least a welcome uplift, though it's not worth it, at least in terms of my system, because the amount of heat being generated is just way too much for the level of performance that we're getting here. But overall, I am happy to see how this is performing in 720p. Kind of disappointed in 1080p, but that was not a surprise for the most part. But anyways, I hope you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.